UFC Perth started with 16 fights, and we ultimately ended up with 12 fights because Justin Taff is fat, his brother got hurt, and a whole bunch of other nonsense went wrong. But the 12 fights we did get were pretty good. We had some finishes, we had a controversial decision, and overall, UFC Perth was a nice welcome back to the cadence of fights every single weekend. My name is Angelo, this is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap and react to every single fight from UFC Perth. Before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. Overall, I had a spectacular night. It was a great night. The safety parlay won. I put up 1.21 units of a net profit with 24% ROI. The only two missed bets are because Andre Petroski is an absolute bum loser who should be cut, and Jake Matthews somehow blew it. The safety parlay was plus 126 and that cash. So overall, great night for the boys. Jacob also had a great night. The safety parlay won, the lock of the week won, the slam of the week won. And overall up units, Jacob and I had to cover Bet Slam's absolute catastrophe of a card, but Jacob did phenomenal. I did incredibly well. Jacob could not miss with that lock of the week win, and we will talk about that in a little bit. If you want to go to our website and unlock every single bet, every single pick, and every single tool that we have, not only for UFC 320, which is next weekend, but for every single fight card in an entire month, go to WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. It is only $10 for an entire month's worth of access, and that will get you UFC 320, UFC Rio, UFC Vancouver, and in a unicorn of months, you're going to get two pay-per-views, UFC 321. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's go ahead and talk about these fights. We opened up the card with the first leg of the safety parlay. We had Alexia Thainara taking on Loma Lookboonmee, and this fight went pretty much the way I thought it would. Loma Lookboonmee had some early success with the counter-striking, and that wasn't surprising. Like, she's a high-level striker. I broke down this fight multiple times over, and every single time I broke it down, I said the same thing. I said Loma Lookboonmee is a very good fighter who we have made money off in the past. The reality is, she's just too small. She should be fighting at like 95 pounds. She's just too small. And Alexia Thainara was not the more technical striker, but she had success striking because she's so damn big and her arms are long, and Loma had to worry about takedowns. So Alexia won this fight pretty much everywhere it went. Now, did she look like the absolute savage that she looked like when she beat the incredible, the phenomenal Molly McMahon? No, she didn't look as good in this fight as she did in that fight, but I'm glad, because in the fight against Molly McCann, she came forward, got the takedown, boom, finished, walked off, and we don't quite get a great look at how good she is or is not. In this fight, we got to see all of it. We saw her shoot takedowns. We saw her strike. We saw her grapple. We saw all of it. Alexia is good. Alexia is a good fighter. This is a pretty straightforward win. I don't think this takes any stock away from Loma. First of all, the favorite won. Second of all, Loma is small. And when she fights people around her general size, she can have some success. Just look at this picture. Look at Alexia's left arm and Loma's right arm. Just look at the difference in these two. Alexia looked good. She got the win, kicked the line off pretty well. Then we went right into Brando Pericic taking on Elisha Ellison. This went exactly the way I thought it would too. If you remember, Brando opened as a plus 185 underdog. A huge underdog, an almost 2-1 underdog. And then that line full shifted. People like me and some others were like, what the hell are we doing here? The Elisha Ellison is a retired cop who moonlights as a fighter. It's a hobby. This is Brando's job. Brando was a professional kickboxer who is now fighting. He can shoot takedowns. He's got power. He's a great kickboxer. He can do all the things. So I went ahead. I placed a bet on Brando, and I placed it nice and early because that line absolutely took off. Absolutely went insane and took off. And Brando looked good. I mean, he dominated the striking exchanges, defended the takedowns, just shoved Elisha Ellison's head to the ground, made him look stupid, like just absolutely ran through this dude, beat him, and made him look like a part-time fighter. The problem is, I don't know how good Brando is. This was 100% a mismatch through and through. I don't know if Brando is like a phenomenal fighter. I don't know if Brando is just better than a part-time fighter. I don't know where he is on the scale of UFC fighter, but he looked great in this fight, and we cashed that bet. Then we have Michelle Montague making her UFC debut. She was a PFL transplant, a Bellator transplant, a highly touted prospect with credentials in both wrestling and grappling, and we saw that here. We talked about her striking. I never said it was good, but I said she moves forward, she gets after it. And that's kind of what we got. She moved forward, she bombed away, she got the fight to the ground, she won the fight. I mean, it was a pretty straightforward win. It wasn't the finish that we've been used to seeing from Michelle, but it makes sense because once you level up and once you start fighting in the best promotion on the planet, you're not just going to run through everybody. I said all week long that Luana Carolina deserves a little bit more credit than she has been getting, and we saw that here. She definitely deserves some credit. She earned her keep. First of all, she sliced up Michelle Montague pretty bad. And I think Michelle won this fight through and through. I don't think it was even questionable. But that cut in other commissions, Vegas, for example, might have scored a little weird. All that blood you see in this picture on Luana's chest and on the foot, that is all from Michelle Montague's forehead. But it didn't really matter. Seemed more of like a lucky slice than anything. Michelle was able to get this fight to the ground, was able to control the fight, was able to do what she wanted to do. She didn't find a finish, but again, finding finishes at this level is very different than just running through regional chicks. So I don't know how good Michelle Montague is going to be, but I do know for 7 fights into her career, she's good now. She is good now. She can compete now. And let's get her a few more wins. And then let's start matching her up against with some of the tougher women in the division, some of the higher ranked women in the division. These divisions need a little bit of juice, especially 135 pounds. 125 has some talent. 115's got a bunch of random women. 135 is kind of lacking. You got a couple of big ones at the top and then a whole bunch of nothing in between. So it will not take long for Michelle to separate herself from the rest of the pack. So I hope she does show. I'm rooting for some new juice, some fresh faces in this division. So very good win for Michelle in her UFC debut against sort of a battle-tested Luana Carolina. And then we had Colby Thicknesse. Colby Thicknesse, Jacob's underdog lock of the week, beats Josias Musasa. My first question to you is, do you think he won that fight? Was there a little bit of a homer decision in the mix, or do you think he genuinely won that fight? I could see how he won this fight. It was dicey. Like, I was waiting for the decision, and to me, it was dicey. So when they said it was unanimous, I was a bit surprised. First round, Thicknesse, right? He weathered an early storm, took a beating, ate a bunch of shots, then got the fight to the ground. But the majority of the fight was on the ground, and he was in dominant positions. Those were not empty, useless takedowns. Second round, not quite as good. Third round, Josias was landing clean. Josias had some success. And then Thicknesse ended up on top again. That was a little bit closer. To me, it felt like it could have gone either way. I was surprised to hear 29-28 across the board. That did surprise me, because if we're thinking about who was closer to finding a finish, it felt like Colby was closer to getting knocked out than he was to finishing Josias. I think the issue is 2 things. One, I mean, he's basically fighting at home, right? Like, this was a hometown fight card with some hometown judging. And that just is the reality of the fight game. And 2, when Josias was on his back, he was useless. Like, flat on his back, just throwing random punches that do nothing. Useless. Bad, useless. And that the optics of that were just horrible. Because, yes, on the feet, he was throwing big. He was landing clean. And we had Colby fucking bouncing all over the place, like trying to stay alive. But the reality is, once it hit the ground, and none of the rounds that Colby won ended on the feet. The rounds that Colby won ended on the ground. So, no matter what early success Josias had, he ends up on the ground looking literally useless. And that's the last thing the judges saw in their mind. Because if it was reversed, if you took the exact same round, the exact same minutes, the exact same success, and just flipped it where it ended with the beginning, Josias would have won that fight, because on the feet, it wasn't even remotely close. Josias is just so bad on the ground. It's crazy. So I don't have an issue with this decision. I imagine a lot of you do. I don't have an issue with this decision. And frankly, credit to Colby for being as tough as he is, because he weathered a storm multiple times over. Multiple times over, he weathered a storm. Look at his face. This guy was beat to absolute shit on the feet. Just beat to shit. But he weathered the storm, somehow got the fights to the ground, and once it was on the ground, the levels were just entirely different. So congrats to Colby Thicknesse, got his first UFC win. Josias Musasa, he's 0-2 now. Got finished in his first fight, has nothing to offer on the ground whatsoever. They'll keep him around for another fight, I'm sure, but what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? It's 2025. At the very least, get up. At the very least. Then we had Jamie Mullarkey, handsome Jamie Mullarkey, beating Rolando Bedoya. I had the moneyline bet on Jamie Mullarkey, and I felt good about it. I felt good about it this entire time. The only time I didn't feel good about it in this fight was the third round. First round, second round, Jamie won those rounds. We saw a little bit of grappling early, then he just kind of abandoned the grappling, stuck with the striking. Jamie is a UFC level. He is a UFC level fighter. Now, is he the very bottom, the basement of a UFC level fighter? Probably. Like, he probably is the bare minimum basement level UFC fighter. Yes. But he is a UFC level fighter. Like, there's always the dumbest kid in the smart kid class, right? You go to an AP class, there's always the dumbest kid. There's always the dumbest kid that graduates law school. There's always the worst person on an NFL roster. So there's always the worst of the best, and Jamie Mullarkey's probably that, right? Jamie Mullarkey is probably the worst 155-pounder that is UFC level. Not the worst person on the roster, because there's still a few stragglers on the roster, Rolando Bedoya, who probably are not at that level. They got signed, and now we're finding out, are they this level or not? And they're not. Jamie is probably as low as you can get, but still be actual UFC level. Like, get together a couple of wins, beat these other guys. Never do anything more, but not lose 3 in a row and get cut. Jamie Mullarkey looked decent in this fight. He's got the technique. He's got the... I mean, he's not the most handsome guy in the world, but that doesn't matter, right? This is all about winning fights, not looking pretty. He has striking. He has grappling. Like, he had power, a flash of power a few years ago. That's gone. I mean, I don't know where that is or what happened with that, but that is gone, right? Those flashes of power were a drop in the bucket a few years ago. But his chin was a little more durable than I expected, because that's where it got dicey. First round, clear Mullarkey. Second round, clear Mullarkey. Third round, Bedoya took over. Because rightfully so, he was like, well, fuck it. I'm losing this fight. Let me just move forward and bomb away. And he started moving forward. He started bombing away. And he started landing. And that's when I started to be like, Jamie Mullarkey is going to get hit. He's going to get finished here. Luckily, he survived that third round, 29-28 across the board. Very fair decision. Jamie Mullarkey looked good. I was surprised these odds were close, and that's why I bet on him. You guys know I'm conservative, Ange. I don't go crazy with the bets. I saw a guy that was an underdog that has wins at this level. A guy that was an underdog that has fought a much higher level of competition. A guy that was an underdog that can do all the things. And there was no like gaping hole in technique between these two. If Jamie Mullarkey was a pure striker with no takedown defense and Rolando Bedoya was a nasty wrestler, okay, I can understand. But that's not what we had. We had Rolando Bedoya, who's a human punching bag. He's very tough, but he's just a punching bag, versus a guy that can get wins at this level, can strike, can grapple, can do that stuff. The big issue on Mullarkey is he has no chin, but Bedoya doesn't have one-punch knockout power. So I felt good about this fight. It went almost exactly the way I thought it would. Rolando taking over late is just unfortunate for him, because now he's 0-3 in the UFC, and this is going to be it for him. So that stinks. And if you're wondering what the hell's going on in my eyes, no, I didn't have a bunch of Tylenol, and now I'm autistic. It's 1 o'clock in the morning my time. So, yeah, eyes are dry. These contacts have been in for a while. And we're going to do some blinking to keep moisturized. It's okay, guys. We're still going to talk about these fights. And the next fight that we are going to talk about is Cam Rowston beating Andre Petroski. Andre Petroski should be cut. Can we agree? Is there anybody watching this video right now who does not think Andre Petroski should be cut? Anybody? Anybody at all? Let me know. I'll pause for dramatic effect. Let me run through Andre Petroski's last couple of fights, okay? The dude, Andre Petroski, is a middleweight who's been on the UFC roster for, let's walk through this. Please hold. He's been on the UFC roster for, I'm not done yet, I'm still reading here, for almost 5 years. He's been on the UFC roster. He's fought a bunch of people. And now here he is getting lit the fuck up by a Contender Series fighter. And it's not like he's getting lit up by a Contender Series fighter who's some wild undefeated prospect. He's getting lit up by Cam Rowston. Cam Rowston fought 2 weeks ago. Cam Rowston has 4 losses. He was out-wrestled by Torres Finney. That's a quality loss, but he was out-wrestled by Torres Finney. He got finished by some dude named Iza Fikatafufu. Jacob Mulcoon beat him. Nathan Reddy beat him. He has lost fights before, but all you have to do is look at the Torres Finney fight and say, you know what? Let me wrestle. I'm Andre Petroski. I'm supposed to be a high-level wrestler. Let me wrestle. If I wrestle, I'll win this fight. But he didn't wrestle. He got dropped. He got finished. Let's run through his recent fight history, and then you tell me that Petroski should not be cut. He just lost to Cam Rowston by stoppage. He loses to Edmund Shabazian, where he was dropped. He beats Rodolfo Bellato in a miracle. Then, before that, he beats Dylan Budka. That dude has been cut. He beats Josh Freem. That dude has been cut. He loses to Jacob Mulcoon, where he shoots a takedown, knocked himself out. He loses to Michelle Pajeda, who beat the shit out of him. And he beats Cheryl Mushart, who has also been cut. So if I look at his wins, he has a win over, let me go back. I don't think Andre Petroski has a single win over an active UFC fighter. Let's go ahead and take a look. Michael Gilmore, not an active UFC fighter. Yazong Hu, not an active UFC fighter. Nick Maximov, not an active UFC fighter. Wellington Turman, not an active UFC fighter. Jeremy Oshart, not an active UFC fighter. Josh Freem, Dylan Budka, not active UFC fighters. He has one actual win over an active fighter. That is Rodolfo Vieira. And the reality is, yes, that's a win. And Rodolfo did just beat Trayshawn Gore, but Rodolfo might be losing to Bo Nickel at UFC 322. Guys, the reality is Andre Petroski needs to be cut. He needs to be cut. Because if you can't beat these people, what are you doing? And like I said, if Cam Rowston was like some savage beast up and coming, that's not who Sam Rowston is. Quick turnaround. Obviously, he's a good fighter. He made this happen, but we got to cut him. We got to cut Andre Petroski. Cam Rowston looked good. He landed clean. He got the finish. But is he good, or did he just look good because he fought a very chinny Andre Petroski who didn't wrestle when he should have? Quick turnaround, made it happen. His dreams are coming true. You can't hate on the dude at all. So Cam Rowston deserves everything he earned tonight. Hopefully he gets some sort of bonus. We didn't have a ton of finishes, so hopefully he gets some sort of bonus, because good for him to turn around, fight on the other side of planet Earth as quickly as he did, to find a finish against a guy who has been around for a while despite the subpar wins. Good for Cam Rowston. Good for him. And when he fights an actual fighter, we'll find out if he's good or not. Then we had Rodolfo Bellato versus Navajo Stirling. I told you guys. I told you. I told you this fight. I told you last fight. I told you the fight before that. Navajo Stirling is not that guy. He just isn't. My exact breakdown, if I didn't peg this correctly, what did I do? I watched this fight. And the whole time I was like, Navajo Stirling is not that good. He is not that good. Is he good enough to beat Rodolfo Bellato? He sure is. Is he tough? Of course he is. He's got skills. He's got technique. But he's not that good of a fighter. And those are different things. Having some decent striking skills, having some decent striking technique doesn't necessarily make you a good fighter. Because while Rodolfo Bellato didn't win this, he did try. He moved forward. He was bombing away. He was trying to make stuff happen. The commentating team kept saying Rodolfo Bellato is not as aggressive as he normally is. Well, because he was probably worried about the striking. But the reality is Navajo Stirling is not who they say he is. And they is everybody on that side of the planet. All the New Zealanders, the Kiwis, all the Australians, everybody who is in this space from that side of the world is convinced that Navajo Stirling is a big deal, and he's not. He's boring. His power doesn't transfer. The striking is not as good as you think he is. He's not a killer. The takedown defense is okay against the cage, but it's nothing spectacular. Like, he is not who you think he is. But we got to win. We got to win. The second leg of the safety parlay, this week's safety parlay was plus 126. The first leg was Alexia Thainara. The second leg was over 1.5. How this was over 1.5, this fight, the round made no sense. That should have been a 2.5 round line. A 1.5 round line made no sense. Bellato's tough. Navajo Stirling is not the finisher you think he is. Obviously, at the end of the first round, he had a couple of nice combinations like, uh-oh. But no, it went nowhere because he's not a killer. That's the difference. The difference between Navajo Stirling and some of these other fighters are Navajo Stirling is not a killer. He will not go all in to find the finish. He'll land clean. If he has you wobbled, he'll throw a few more. Didn't work. All right, let me back off. Let me reset. Let me find my rhythm again. He's not a killer. He doesn't have just like the go watch any Robbie Lawler fight. Any Robbie Lawler fight. That dude is a killer. That dude loves to be in a fist fight. He loves to get punched in the face and punch somebody else. He loves it. He lives for it. Navajo Stirling, that's not him. He's got technique. He loves the idea of being a UFC fighter, and he is a UFC fighter, and he's undefeated, and he's doing things. So I'm not trying to disparage his record. I'm saying he is not who people say he is, because people are talking about him being this big deal and he's going to be somebody special. I don't think he ever will be. I think when he finally fights somebody that has decent technique, who is willing to slug it out, he will not rise to the occasion. So this worked for me. It was Bet Sam's Slam of the Week. It was the second leg of the safety parlay. Like, we all made money off of this. This went exactly the way I thought it would. A decision win where his clean technique was the difference, but there was no way he was going to knock out Rodolfo Bellato. I don't think Bellato is very good. I don't think he's very bad either. He's kind of tough. He just kind of moves forward and tries to make things happen. But in his last couple of fights, with the performance of a lifetime, and then now this one, like, I don't know what his future is going to be. I'm sure they'll keep him around for a little bit, but Rodolfo Bellato is not exactly, turning heads and changing anybody's sort of opinions of him. I mean, his last 3 fights, a draw with Jimmy Crute, a no contest with Paul Craig, and now a loss to Navajo Stirling. They could cut him right now, and not one person on this planet other than his mother would complain. Not one. Then we had Tom Nolan and Charlie Campbell. And this went, it was a little more, let's put it this way. I picked Tom Nolan. And I expected him to win. I didn't think it would be this straightforward because he won the striking exchanges and the grappling. Like, he won every minute of this fight. Tom Nolan walked through Charlie Campbell. He just walked right through him. He did what he wanted to on the feet. He did what he wanted to on the ground. There was not any moments where it's like, oh, Charlie's pretty good. But everybody commented. Every comment I got about this fight was, Charlie Campbell was beating Chris Duncan. Charlie Campbell was beating Chris Duncan, though. And if he was doing that to Chris Duncan, no. MMA math doesn't work. We've established that. Like, for years, we've established MMA math does not work. And the math of Charlie Campbell beating Chris Duncan doesn't apply here because Chris Duncan is one of the most hittable, beatable dudes in the division. He's just tough and he survives and then he takes over. But he is hittable. He is somebody that everybody looks good against. Name a single Chris Duncan fight where somebody didn't look like they were beating him. Literally everybody. Belagioki was beating him. Mateusz Rebecki was beating him. Charlie Campbell was beating him. All of these people were beating him. Jordan Vucenic beating him. All of these people were beating him, and then he found a win. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because people were applying that MMA math of, well, Chris Duncan is pretty good, and Charlie Campbell was beating Chris Duncan, so Charlie Campbell will win here. No, he won't. Charlie Campbell looked good in that fight because he was fighting somebody insanely hittable. Tom Nolan is long. He's lean. Tom Nolan can do a lot of stuff, and if Charlie Campbell can't just plant his feet and blast leg kicks, he's not going to have that success here. And that's exactly what happened. Tom Nolan moved forward, was landing clean. Charlie Campbell wasn't able to get the leg kicks going, wasn't able to get anything going. And Tom Nolan was able to get it done. So Tom Nolan looked good in this fight. He's 10-1 in his career now. And he's got to finish. And Charlie Campbell's tough. We watched Charlie Campbell go just dog for dog in his last fight, the fight before this. So if he's going dog for dog with Trevor Peek, who's an animal, we know that Charlie Campbell's tough, and Tom Nolan made this look easy. So Tom Nolan's pretty good. He beat a very high-level striker in his last fight. He beat Charlie Campbell in this fight. I don't know what we're going to do with Tom Nolan. The only time he looked like a human being is when Nicholas Mata cracked him, and that dude hits like a freight train. So Tom Nolan is a very good fighter and deserves a little bit more respect than people were giving him coming into this week. And then we had very, very tricky fight with Neil Magny and Jake Matthews. This caption says he was out in the first, because that's exactly what we got here. So Jake Matthews loses this fight. He gets darsed. He loses the fight. Honestly, very embarrassing. If you are him, I can't imagine the embarrassment. The biggest favorite on the entire card, a 5-1 favorite. You would have to spend $500 to win 100. He was younger, faster. He was supposed to be better than Neil everywhere, and he gets submitted. And I wouldn't even say it was like a fluke. Like, it wasn't like a random, like, got his neck stuck in something. Like, Neil Magny did that. He didn't catch him shooting a takedown with his neck up. Like, Neil Magny did that. And that's important to point out, because Jake Matthews was very disappointing in this fight. In the first round, though, he finished Neil Magny. The question to you all is, what do you do with that? So if you didn't watch, in the first round, Jake Matthews ends up, he looked decent. Like, he didn't look amazing, but he looked decent. They end up on the ground. He ends up in a guillotine, and he chokes Neil Magny. Neil Magny's arm was up like this, and then it goes limp. And then the round was over, so the ref stops it. And Neil Magny was very clearly unconscious. And the ref stops it because the round was up. And then Neil gets a little bit of breath in his lungs and like wakes up, like woke up, like literally like they popped a freaking, what is it? Oh my God, a smelling salt. Like they popped the smelling salt, like bang, or they Narcaned him, just woke right up. But he was out. He was unconscious. He was out. So there's two schools of thought there. One is like, hey, that dude was unconscious. This fight's over. The other is like, he might have been out, but you get a minute between rounds and he got up, went to his corner, came back out. Like, that is what it is. He used the between round time to survive. And then he came back and won this fight. And honestly, I'm in that camp. I'm in the camp of maybe he was unconscious, but it was in between rounds that he was unconscious, or at the very end of the round. And then he came back and beat you. So, like, how unconscious could he have been? And why were you not able to replicate that success? So, Neil Magny, at this point in his career, I am shocked he won that fight. And I'm not shocked in that he was able to scrape by a win, because he is a veteran. He's got veteran savvy. He's fought all the best people on planet Earth. I am just shocked that he beat somebody younger, faster, stronger, who is good at the same things he is good at. Jacob and I talked about this fight, and we said the only way Neil wins this fight is if Jake Matthews ends up clinching with him or doing dumb shit like that. And that's not how he won the fight. That's not how he won the fight, because even when Jake Matthews ended up getting the guillotine, why the hell were you in a guillotine position, you idiot? Why are you in that position? You're fighting an old man who's been around the block, who has fought everybody in the world. Why are you even in that position? Now, it almost worked for him, but like, what are we doing, dude? Be fast, be young, be powerful, use your movement. What are you doing? Slowing the pace and like jumping guillotine is only giving the old man an opportunity. So the old man gets it done. Good for Neil Magny. Congratulations for him. The funniest part about that, though, is how dead silent that arena was. It was, they didn't boo, they didn't cheer. It was dead silent. Like, and I know that this event struggled. Like, the UFC literally had to start selling tickets for $50 from like cut down from many, many, many hundreds. They could not sell this place out. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that while it's not a spectacular card, it was a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Who the hell? Think about what time you have to wake up to get ready, to drive to the arena. And then you're going to pay thousands of dollars to get up at 4 a.m. and then get ready. Crazy. Crazy. So they struggle to sell tickets. They only sell tickets to locals, right? Nobody's flying to Perth for an event like this. Meaning, like, you're not going to get internationals. You're only getting locals. And then the local guy loses in embarrassing fashion in the third round. You could hear a pin drop. You could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet. Then we had the wrestler, Jack Jenkins, the wrestler. I am hating on the Australians and the New Zealanders. I'm hating on them. And I was accused of being a hater this week. Angelo hates all the people. And you know what? I didn't even realize it. I genuinely didn't even realize it. I was just breaking down every fighter, talking about them, giving the opinion. And then it wasn't until somebody pointed out, Angelo's hating on all the Australians and the New Zealanders. Then I was like, I guess I am a little bit. Right? I kept saying Navajo Stirling's not as good as he says he is. Colby Thicknesse sucks. I said Jack Jenkins is living off of a leg break from 5 years ago. And he's not the striker that you guys think he is. And he's not. He's not. Look at him. This is him shooting a takedown. He turned into a wrestler. He won this with wrestling. Now, his striking didn't look bad. It did not look bad. His striking looked good. And then he got hit a few times. And he's like, I'm going to wrestle. So he wrestled. So Jack Jenkins won the fight. Very clear win. Nothing controversial about it. Ramon Tavares didn't really get anything going. So good for Jack Jenkins. This was a tailor-made matchup for him. Like, this is a fight he absolutely should have won, and he did. I just want to know, for all of you who were betting on Jack Jenkins and you love Jack Jenkins, did you think he was going to wrestle? Like, did you think this was going to be a fight where he's going to be shooting takedowns trying to get it to the ground? Or did you think, like, no, Jack's a phenomenal striker and he's got the amazing leg kicks? I was just surprised at how quickly he started shooting takedowns. So granted, it's amazing that he can shoot takedowns. He's a good striker. He won this fight. Very, very, very clear win for him. And it's a good win. It's a good win because Ramon Tavares doesn't suck. So this is a very good win for Jack Jenkins. Good for him. So I'm not trying to take anything away from the win. I'm just surprised at how quickly he started wrestling. Hit a few times. I'm shooting a takedown. The problem for Ramon is he headhunts. He looks for power. He doesn't stay mobile enough. He's just trying to find finishes. And at this level, just like we talked about with Sean Montague, it's very hard to just find finishes. So he didn't. Jack Jenkins was able to get it done. Good for him. We saw other dimensions. We've seen him grapple in the past, but he leaned on it pretty heavy in this fight. So good for Jack Jenkins. Nice, clean, straightforward win. We're just hoping for a little bit more striking. Then we had Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute got this done almost immediately. Not a bad thing, I can say. People say I hate on the New Zealanders, the Australians. I can't say anything bad about Jimmy Crute other than that ridiculous haircut. Jimmy Crute did what he was supposed to do. This caption, found his way out, that is for Ivan Erslan. Jimmy Crute did not have a rear naked choke. This went in the books as a rear naked choke. Tapology, right now, I'm looking at it. It says submission, rear naked choke. That's not what that was. That's not what that was. The arm was here. The arm was here. It was not here. It was here. That was an uncomfortable position. That was an uncomfortable position. That was not a submission. He didn't cut off the blood. He didn't cut off the air. That was an uncomfortable position. And Ivan was uncomfortable, so he tapped out. It was actually kind of a bitch move. I'm not going to lie. I've been grappling for fucking Jesus Christ. I got my blue belt in 2004. It's been a very, very long time. Wrestled forever, then took up jiu-jitsu in fucking 2002? 2003 I took it up, and I got the blue belt in 2004, something like that. I've been doing this a very, very long time. Long before it was cool, when it was just like the only people competing in these tournaments were trying to be professional athletes, not like dads trying to stay in shape like what jiu-jitsu is now. And I'm 100% certain that was just an uncomfortable position. I've been in uncomfortable positions before. And I've tapped to uncomfortable positions. But not in this setting. I've tapped in the gym like, all right, dude, fucking Jesus Christ. That fucking hurts. Stop. Not in a tournament. Not on a massive stage where this is your job to get paid. Ivan Erslan should be cut immediately. He should be cut immediately. For him to tap that quickly, and listen, I bet on Jimmy Crute. I picked Jimmy Crute, so this isn't cope. This is me watching that fight as a fight fan and being disappointed that somebody just looked for a way out and got it instantly. I'm done. Didn't even try. No, done. I'm out. My chin is up. I don't like it. I'm out. Unless we find out that he bit through his tongue because the tongue was out and then it was shit. What are we doing? Uncomfortable position, so good for Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute got a couple of wins in a row. Jimmy Crute had quite the road. Since 2025, he's only had one win. One win since 2025. He went 4.5 years with 0 wins. Then he got one. Now he got a second one, and now he's building back. And that's very important for Jimmy Crute because Jimmy Crute isn't exactly the most mentally sound guy. He is somebody that you can rattle his confidence, you can get in his head, and that will affect his performances. So for him to have some confidence, have a couple wins in a row, that is very important for Jimmy Crute. And if they keep giving him favorable matchups like this against people who can't defend takedowns, I'm going to keep picking him. I'm going to keep betting on him. Good for him. Cut Ivan Erslan. And then we had the main event of the evening. This was a good fight. It was an interesting fight because Dominick Reyes, who, as I mentioned all week long, pulled himself out of a death spiral and did so by finding power, letting his hands go, and just being him, came into this fight, did not let his hands go, did not actively pursue a win, and was just very, very cautious. And that caution cost him. And that's the problem here because the reality is this fight was always going to be, if it stayed clean, Carlos Ulberg would get it done. He was the better striker. But if you were able to make it dirty and you were able to move forward and get in Carlos's face and just start swinging, you might have success. But if you kept it clean, it was going to be a problem for you. And Dominick Reyes tried to keep it clean. And it's always interesting when you see stuff like that. And I'm by no means a professional fighter or a professional coach. But it's always interesting to see that because I guarantee this whole fight camp was just a ton of clean boxing technique. A ton of it. When the reality is, Dominick Reyes' fight camp should have been the game plan. Not clean boxing technique. You are not going to get better at kickboxing than Carlos Ulberg in a 6-week training camp. You're just not. That dude competed at a very high level, and he has so for a very long time. You are not going to close that gap. What you can do is come up with a perfect game plan. And if I was his coach, I would say tuck the chin, move forward, and get in his fucking face. I want you to wrestle early, so he's worried about the wrestling. And then when his hands start dropping because he thinks you're going to wrestle, then you can start boxing him up. But do not do it at range. Stay in the pocket. Stay in his face. Touch him. That's not what he did. Stayed on the outside, tried to play clean. You're not going to outbox a professional kickboxer. You're not going to. So Carlos Ulberg won a fight that was given to him, basically. Great win for Carlos Ulberg, and I'm glad. I am genuinely glad because at UFC 320 next weekend, the UFC light heavyweight belt is on the line. I imagine Ankalaev's going to win that fight again. And then we need another person. Who is the next person? This is the weakest this division has ever been. So for Carlos Ulberg to get a knockout in the first round and be on a 9-fight win streak matters very, very much. It matters very much. Because if Ulberg lost and Dominick Reyes won, then the UFC would be convincing us that Dominick Reyes earned a title shot off of 4 wins in a row, which that is great, but none of them were good wins. So I am glad Ulberg won. He absolutely deserves to get the next title shot. So good for him. Let's see what happens. First, we got to get through UFC 320, which is next week. And the reason that matters is because if you go to my website, WeWantPicks.com, you can unlock every pick, every bet, and every tool for not only UFC 320, but also UFC Rio, UFC Vancouver, and UFC 321. What you're looking at here is the fight simulator. The fight simulator is one of the many tools on the website. The website's not just copy-paste bets. If we go back to the beginning of this video, my bets were great. Jacob's bets were great. But we have more than just some bets. We have tools, and we have breakdowns, and we have insight, and we have more cappers. The fight simulator is going to simulate fights 100,000 times. The tape index is going to give you a full library, a list of all the fights for each of the fighters on that fight card, so you can do your own tape study. A prop hunter, a curated set of data specifically designed to help you find prop bets. A data analyzer, a full suite of data and information that you can use to filter down to find your spots. There are so many things on the website, wewantpicks.com. Every single thing can help you find your own spots, can help reinforce spots, to keep you away from spots. It's $10 for an entire month. Unlock UFC 320 right now, and you'll get UFC Rio, UFC Vancouver, UFC 321. Guys, thanks for being here. I genuinely appreciate you, and you have no idea how happy I am that fights are back. Thanks for being here. The UFC 320 breakdown is available at 9 a.m. Sunday morning, and if you're watching this after that, then it's available right now. Go watch that.